Hello everyone, I am NKG and today I want to talk about a movie that has a very special place in my heart. As we all know, we get a lot of bad movies from Bollywood every year, but everyone more or less understands that they are actually bad. So no one really pays money to watch them, because of which they flop and we all move on with our lives. Mimi, a 2021 comedy directed by Lakshman Otekar and starring Pankaj Tripathi and Kriti Sanon, which advertised itself as a portrayal of the commercial surrogacy situation in India, is a special kind of bad film. I don't think it's enough to call this movie bad. I think it's evil. Let me explain. So, for starters, this movie was released on a lot of popular online platforms and Geo Cinema, so nobody had to put any effort or money into getting to watch it. So it got a lot more eyeballs than it otherwise would have if it had released in theaters, and everyone seems to love it. I also watched the movie right around the time it was released, and I hated it. And everyone seems to like it specifically for the reasons that I think it's a really bad movie. I don't even care that the jokes aren't that funny or that the music is not that good, but what I do care about is that all the main characters are terrible people. All of them do absolutely nonsensical things just so that the movie can happen. The movie brings up social issues that affect the Indian society, not to address them or take a stand on them, but for cheap laughs and throwaway comments. And finally, it is a deeply, deeply dishonest movie. And the last point is what I want to focus on in this video. Because I am an aware, responsible citizen, I'm not a paid film critic, I haven't even been to film school, but I love movies and I love Bollywood. And it just hurts me so much that a movie that is so dishonest in its promotion, in its presentation, in its messaging, can just be accepted by all of us because it's Bollywood. Like, people, if we do not call a bad thing bad, all we're gonna get is bad things. And that's the reason why I'm making this video. I want to highlight some major points in the movie where I feel its dishonesty is completely inexcusable. Also, I'll not be giving you a recap of the entire story. You can watch the trailer on YouTube. It's basically the entire movie. So, let's just start. Number 1. Surrogacy always involves hiring a woman. So this isn't something that's the fault of this movie alone. In a lot of mainstream media and also in literature sometimes, the terms surrogacy and commercial surrogacy are used interchangeably. Surrogacy in the context of assisted reproductive technologies is simply a woman carrying a fetus that is not genetically hers in her womb to full term with the intention of handing it over to its genetic parents. Apart from the baseline medical cost, the surrogate mother might be getting some monetary compensation from the intended parents. If she is, the arrangement is called commercial surrogacy, and if she is not, the arrangement is called altruistic surrogacy. In the case of altruistic surrogacy, the surrogate mother is usually somebody who is close to the intended parents, sometimes a friend, sometimes a relative who acts as the surrogate mother. Altruistic surrogacy is actually much cheaper and quite a viable option for an average Indian. However, I was weirded out at one point in the beginning of this movie where Bhanu, played by Pankaj Tripathi, is considering surrogacy for himself and his wife as a way to finally have a child of their own. They have apparently been trying for a number of years and failing. And the wife from the American couple that's visiting India just instantly crushes the entire idea by saying that he just won't be able to afford it. That's a bit weird. I mean, it's one thing to not cover all the aspects of a certain topic, and it's another thing to actively go out of your way to deny the existence of an entire aspect of the central topic of your movie. Like, it's fully clear from the story that a majority of the cost that goes towards seeking surrogacy is paying the surrogate mother and the agent that has arranged her. All that cost can be cut if you go for altruistic surrogacy. Why would you do that? Why would you implicitly establish that seeking surrogacy always involves hiring a complete unknown woman for a hefty fee? Now, just to be clear, I understand that it is very difficult to find someone who is willing to be a surrogate mother for free, and if Bhanu continued to have a desire for a child, the story would have been too long and too complex. But the movie could have spared maybe 4 more lines of dialogues to arrive at the conclusion that not only does Bhanu not want to be able to afford commercial surrogacy, but he also has a reason to not even try to go for altruistic surrogacy. But I guess that would have required a sprinkling of nuance on the subject. And for reasons I will elaborate later on in this video, this movie is allergic to nuance. Number 2. Surrogacy clinics are always a neutral party in the entire process. So another weird thing that I noticed that they have completely cleaned up any evidence of wrongdoings on the part of the fertility clinics. It's usually the fertility clinics that source the surrogate mother. They usually have a network of agents, usually women who have been surrogate mothers themselves, who recruit other women to become surrogate mothers. It's the clinic that draws up the semi-legal documents between the parents and the surrogate mother. They are a business after all, and they want to give their clients confidence in their investments. But not in this movie. They don't even do the standard physical, mental and background checks when Mimi volunteers to become a surrogate mother, which is a standard procedure in most ART clinics in India. The main doctor just asked, "Jabardasti to nahi kar rahe ho na?" And that's it. Screening done. In reality, recruiting surrogate mothers is like a really shady process. Usually, women from a lower economic class are targeted. They are not given a lot of information. Beyond that, they won't have to sleep with anyone, and they are usually trapped in really unfair contracts. Well, the clinics take a huge cut from the fee that is being paid by the intended parents, and they get like a very tiny percentage of the profit that the clinics are making. Additionally, since the contracts give the intended parents all the rights to take decisions regarding the pregnancy, the clinics try to persuade the intended parents to approve of and pay for unnecessary and sometimes risky medical procedures on the surrogate mother. For example, there have been reports that the fertility clinics sometimes force the surrogate mothers to undergo C-section instead of giving birth naturally, so that the intended parents can decide the time and date when their genetic child would be born. The movie does not engage with any of these facts. There are extremely vague and blink and miss type references to the possibly unethical practices of sourcing surrogate mothers in India and the industrialization of commercial surrogacy in India somewhere in UP, but that's purely for establishing that the American couple are looking for a quote-unquote healthy and young girl in Rajasthan. In my opinion, portraying this real thing that really happens would have made for an excellent commentary on how profit-driven these fertility clinics really are. But I guess then they would not have been able to include Pankaj Tripathi in the script. To be fair, the movie does show one thing that the clinics did wrong, but I don't think the movie is aware of it. And that is the Down syndrome diagnosis. Down syndrome diagnosis results are not just dropped on parents all of a sudden. There are usually screening tests that are done before going for a full diagnostic test, which tell the probability or the risk factor of your child having Down syndrome. If you get a result which shows a high risk of your child having Down syndrome, then you as a parent or anybody, whoever is acting as a parent, whoever has the authority for taking decisions related to the baby, they have to give active consent to go for a diagnostic test which will confirm whether or not the baby has Down syndrome. The reason for that is that the procedure which is required for conducting the diagnostic test, which confirms with nearly 100% certainty whether or not your child has Down syndrome, can also accidentally result in the termination of the pregnancy. It's around a 1% chance, but even then, clinics 100% do not want to take the liability of conducting and messing up. And this is yet another disgusting example of the movie having zero integrity just to create more drama. Number 3. Foreign intended parents commonly run away from their surrogacy arrangements. So, there are a number of ways in which the central conflict of the movie could have been avoided. But in any case, let's just accept that nothing could have been done to prevent what happened to Mimi, not even the contract that they signed at the beginning of their arrangement. Okay, sure. Instead, let's talk about how much sense it makes for the intended parents to just abandon their surrogate mothers and the fertility clinic and everything at the drop of a dime. According to my research, a more likely scenario is that if the intended parents do not want the child, they just very easily force the surrogate mother to have an abortion and try implanting an embryo again. Because in many surrogacy arrangements, any decisions regarding pregnancy termination fall to the intended parents. The justification that is given is that since they are the ones paying for the procedure, they are the ones who would be taking custody of the child after it is born, and they are usually going for surrogacy as a last resort for having a biological child, they have the right to do anything to ensure that they have a healthy baby. Personally, I do not think the surrogate mother should not have a say in this matter at all. And I would have liked to see this conflict play out just a little bit. But no, since the wife from the American couple is an emotional mess and also the sole decision taker of the family, they just leave. According to this movie, it's a really common thing that happens. I tried to dig up any data that supports the claim made by the fertility doctor around the mid-section of the movie that in the past few years, in many surrogacy cases, parents have refused to accept the baby. They run away, especially the foreigners. Mostly the surrogate mothers abort their babies. I found precisely one case in which a foreign couple hired a surrogate mother and did not accept the baby because it had some problem. It was an Australian couple, and actually they did not accept one of the twin children born to the surrogate mother, the one which had Down syndrome. I could not find any other cases. My point is not that there is no way that this is a real common problem. My point is that there is no evidence that it is. I just wish this movie had done at least something to create an actual conversation around this issue that is at the core of its story. Like, you don't need to invent new problems. There already are a lot of problems with the surrogacy process. Let's just move on. Number 4. A foreign person can just adopt an Indian orphan child and leave with them within a couple of days. So, spoiler for the end of the movie, the American couple decide to adopt an orphan girl instead of taking back their genetic son. The movie ends with them flying away with her to the US. They definitely are flying on the same day as the one when Mimi showed up to give them Raj. Again, something that could have been conveniently discussed over a phone call, but I guess then it won't have been that dramatic. We also know that not more than 2 days have passed between the time the couple showed up at Mimi's house to give them the ultimatum that they're going to legally fight for their right to their genetic son and the end of the movie. In these 2 days, the American couple has not only been able to secure full custody of an orphan child, but also gotten full clearance to take her with them to the US. I am not even going to comment on how badly the conclusion of the story is written. Let's leave that aside. If you are more than 18 years of age and you have lived those 18 years of your life in India, you know adoption is not so quick and easy. And there is a good reason for that. Human trafficking is a thing that happens. Children are especially vulnerable to it, and statistically, juvenile girls are at an even higher risk. As opposed to the problems invented by this movie, child trafficking through adoption has been a problem in India. There are tons of legal and practical fail-safes in place to prevent adoption from becoming an easy way to prey on children, especially when it comes to inter-country adoptions. Moreover, in India, you cannot pick and choose which child you want to adopt. Even if we consider that the end of this movie took place before 2017, the correct way to adopt a child would have been registering on the government's portal and then waiting for a referral by the Child Adoption Resource Authority, or CARA in short. This is done because if the prospective parents are given full choice in the matter, many children would never get adopted and they'll never get a chance to have a better future. Like, I can understand that you want to promote adoption as an alternative to seeking fertility treatments, but why are you misrepresenting the process? Okay, I understand that you can't stretch the movie even longer, but then why push it to the last 5 minutes of your movie? This movie has been baffling me with its weird disconnect from everything reasonable and meaningful regarding the situations that it portrays. And so far, I have raised a number of questions, the answers to which I found in the literal first second of the movie. Number 5. This is probably an anti-surrogacy movie. Before I got down to writing the script for this video, I had seen the movie only once. I decided to rewatch it to make sure that the points that I'm raising are solid and they're not just complaints that could have easily been addressed by saying, oh, you didn't watch the movie properly. Upon my rewatch, I discovered the truth. I did something no one ever really does. I read the disclaimer at the beginning of this movie, and let me quote a line from it for you. This movie is not a commentary on the process of surrogacy in India. That's bullshit. Oh my god. So you're telling me that this movie is not about the thing that is at the center of focus for 98% of its story and 100% of its advertisement. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, oh my god. There's only 2 ways this makes sense. 1, I am an idiot for thinking that the filmmakers had any agenda on their minds except making money. And just like the dozens of other examples where they bring up social issues just to make jokes or throw away comments, this whole surrogacy plot was just used as the foundation to make the movie more spicy. Not to start a conversation, not to raise awareness, just to make jokes about it. Or 2, it is an anti-surrogacy movie in disguise. And it is too much of a coward to admit it, because this movie does contain commentary on the process of surrogacy. What about that opening scene in that dirty clinic/hostel hybrid place where there's this shady doctor talking to the American couple about arranging girls from them as if they are a commodity that they're buying and selling? And what about Bhanu literally describing surrogacy as being a womb for rent, and how the surrogate mothers usually stay away from home and don't let their relatives know about it, and how Mimi's ambitions are basically destroyed because of her decision to be a surrogate mother. Like, this movie is constantly raising points about surrogacy. It's just either raising completely false points or in a completely disingenuous way. And now that I think about it, even the reason they introduced adoption as a thing in the end is not to promote adoption, but to make people who are considering surrogacy rethink their decision. Like, this is clearly them painting a demonic artificial image of surrogacy. Look, even I didn't have a firm stance on commercial surrogacy in India because I didn't know much about it. Everything that I know has been learned while researching for this video. The video that I'm making because I hated the movie. and I wanted to be sure about what I'm saying. But I seem to be alone in this. It did not challenge any ideas, it did not raise any awareness, it did not make you think. For example, I bet you didn't even know that the government of India right now is 100% against commercial surrogacy. Since 2015, foreign couples are prohibited from seeking surrogacy services in India, and there is currently a bill which has been passed by Lok Sabha which places a complete ban on commercial surrogacy. I would have never found these things out had I not decided to debunk this movie. And that's the reason why I consider this movie to be evil. It completely misrepresents an issue and then hides behind claims of being a fun, entertaining comedy. Hello everyone. So as you could see, I tried recording everything in one evening, but it got pretty late, it got pretty dark, and there were still some things remaining that I wanted to say. So consider this like a conclusion of an essay. So the first thing that I want to address is the reason I'm making this video. So far it seems to be quite pointless, it seems to be just acting outraged against something. I will admit I feel a little offended by the success of this film. I have expressed that thoroughly throughout my commentary, and I didn't want to just be upset. I wanted to channel that disappointment and frustration into something that might be constructive, not directly but more towards the viewers. So it would be less about giving a direct feedback to the filmmakers, because I am a nobody. I can yell all I want into a mic and publish it on YouTube, but there is a very, very rare chance that the people who made the decisions that resulted in this movie in its current form would even watch it. So the thing is, this is more towards the general audience of Bollywood films and how we can be more critical and more aware about things where we need to be. I feel once we start understanding and start being more empathetic about what we are watching, we can demand better movies. We deserve better movies. We do not need to settle for this kind of crap. And the thing is, this is one of those movies that is really a crap movie but has been perceived as like, I've never seen something like this before in my life. And the thing is, if there are 10 trash movies and out of them one is able to just get mainstream success, it's able to disguise its badness well under the polish of production value, that promotes the release of 10 more trash movies the next year. And this is like one of the things that I would say that it is my video is aimed towards the viewer. I want the viewers to be more aware and be more open-minded, not only in the direction of just accepting everything as is, but also in the direction of nothing is beyond criticism. I have not even expressed to a full extent everything that I feel about this film. When I watched it, I had planned out like a really, really long video essay on it with chapters and much more editing and much more illustrations, but that was taking too long. Even this video, I'm pretty sure by the time I'll be able to release it, would be right around the edge of relevance of this movie. And at this point, I don't think anybody cares anymore. This is not going to impact the movie's viewership directly. So this is just, I guess, a warm-up exercise for me. I'm going to continue making more videos, not necessarily about movies or specifically about Indian movies, but entertainment in general. That's going to include TV shows, music, and so on, and also deeper topics like philosophy, politics, etc. So if you are looking forward to that sort of content, you can subscribe, ring that bell, and if you like the video, leave a like.